Commissioners meeting. And before we call the order, I'd like to acknowledge that we are on Mi'kmaq, the traditional and unceded and ancestral land of the Mi'kmaq people, and we are all treaty people. Really quick, we'll do our call to order. I'll just start with the regrets. We have regrets from Commissioner Beals and Commissioner Thomas, and we'll start with Commissioner McDougall.
Here, and thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Blackburn.
Good afternoon, everybody. Coming to you live from Beaverbank.
Thank you, and Commissioner Kent.
Yep, I am here and ready to do some good work.
Great, thank you. And we'll just do a quick audio check for our chiefs and Chief Kinsella. Sorry.
I am here, Chair, and ready to go.
Thank you. And we have Chief Superintendent Chris Leather here in place of Chief Superintendent Gray.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chair. Chris Leather here.
Great. Thank you so much. Mr. Marty, I see your hand up.
Yes, Chair. Just as you may know, Catherine Salzman is leaving legal services this week. And so the new alternate who will be the alternate for the board and also advising the police is Andrew Goff, who's joined online with us too. So that's, so you'll know, board members, and that's all.
Thank you. Thank you. And welcome, Mr. Goff. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here, and we also send our greatest thanks to our past legal colleague here. That's not like they passed away. No, they didn't pass away. They no longer going to be serving. Anyway, community announcements. Are there any community announcements from members? Yes, Commissioner Blackburn.
No, just quickly want to recognize that Lockview High is having their prom today / this evening. So thanks to all of the parents who worked hard to make that happen, and hopefully everyone stays safe as they celebrate the end of their high school years. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
They're not going out to Hatfield Farms, are they? To the giant giant unicorn, are they?
Not to my knowledge. Some of the pictures that I saw, they're dressing up and going out for a dinner and dance. So
Oh, good, great.
maybe the inflatable unicorn comes after that, but I'm not aware.
Thank you. Any other comments or acknowledgements from members? No. Okay. Moving to approval of minutes, June 21st. Any comments, questions of the minutes from June 21st? All right, seeing none, ask for a mover on the minutes.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Moved by Commissioner Kent and second by Commissioner McDougall. And there's already no errors or omissions as acknowledged. So all those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Seeing none, we have minutes. Okay, so moving to approval of order of business. Mr. Clerk, anything to note?
There are no additions or deletions from today's agenda.
Thank you. Anything from members at all? Nope. All right. Mover for the approval of the agenda.
I so move.
Thank you. Moved by
second.
Commissioner Blackburn, second by Commissioner Kent. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing none. So we have an agenda. Business arising out of the minutes. There are none. Call for declaration of conflict of interest. Seeing none. Consideration deferred business. There's none. Correspondence, petitions, and delegations. Correspondence, Mr. Clerk.
Correspondence has been received and circulated to the board. This includes correspondence relating to item 10.2.1.
All right, thank you. Petitions, any petitions?
No petitions have been received for today's meeting by the clerk's office.
Okay, great. There's no presentations, no information items that have been brought forward. So moving to reports, starting with 10.1.1, the Commissioner's Annual Report 2020. And would Commissioner McDougall, would you like to put this on the floor, please, if you don't mind?
I'd be happy to. Would you like me to read a motion?
Yes, please.
Okay. That the Halifax Board of Police Commissioners approve the 2020 Board of Police Commissioners Annual Report as presented, and direct that the approved 2020 Board of Police Commissioners Annual Report be forwarded to Halifax Regional Council for information. I so move.
I'll
Thank
second.
you. Thank you. Second by Commissioner Kent. Any comments, Commissioner McDougall?
I just want to make a note that this annual report has been, I think this is the fourth one that we've done. And it's really a good way to keep council informed about our annual calendar. And I want to thank Andrea for pulling it together, because she has all the documents and can easily refer to what we did through the year. So thank you for pulling this together for us.
Agreed. Any other commissioners' comments, questions, anything that should be included, fixed before we send it off? No? Okay, well, I'll just really quickly comment from the chair. I should have my chat up just in case I missed something. No, I didn't. Again, thank you to Andrea for putting this together, and also Commissioner McDougall for looking at it and add some comments before we have it today. I think it covers a lot of what we have done, and the next annual report will be just as interesting, because there's lots of things that happened this year already that would be good for council to be aware of. So the only question, in the past, has there ever been a presentation to council on our annual report, or is it always an information item and then council can decide to bring it forward if they want to discuss items? And I'm not sure who has the answer to that.
I believe that is how it has been done in the past, as an information item.
Right.
I'm not aware, Chair, I'm not aware of it ever coming forward any other way.
I don't remember either. I know that we do presentations for the budget, but I haven't seen a presentation for the annual report. So if that ever comes to fruition, we would, if a counselor does ask for this to be removed from the info item, we would just expect that one of the counselors on the commission would speak to it. We wouldn't. How would we deal with that if that does happen?
If it's removed as an information item, it comes back to the next meeting, not the meeting that it is getting
Right.
pulled forward from. So if it is pulled forward, we can make a plan during that break to have somebody there and maybe figure out how that'll work.
Okay. All right, great. Well, I thank you, Ian. I have nothing further to say. I don't see any comments from members of changes or suggestions. So if we are happy with as presented, ask for the question to be called on this item.
Question.
Great, question's been called. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Seeing none. Great, thank you. So we have an annual report that will be sent to council. Will this go to upcoming council or following council?
It would be going sometime in August. It would not. The plan is not for it to go tomorrow.
Great, thank you. So moving on to 10.1.2, HRM Ward Report Recommendations Update. So this one is for preparations for the 2-year Wortley Report, and both chiefs, if you feel compelled to speak, you can. So I have the reports from both RCMP and HRP that will be compiled for our final report. So that will be undergone. That will be compiled. Can't speak today. It's Monday. So today we don't have the final report because we only received the information from the DOJ on Friday or Thursday. for their information that we needed to compile. And that's online if folks want to review it. So we're going to have to put that into our report, and receive information from one of the partners that we asked for letters from, and we're just waiting for another one. So our next meeting, it will most likely be complete and compiled and ready for public to consume. But today, just because we still have some work to do to make it, we could have rushed and had it done for this meeting, but I felt, and other members felt, and the chiefs felt, that it would be hard for commissioners to get such short notice of the report, to read it, let alone us compile it. So it's appropriate that we wait until next meeting for that. And we are expecting to, well, this is my thought, expecting not to have a meeting in August, just to give folks a break, and then have a meeting in September, which we also have our new members, hopefully, if everything goes according to plan, by then as well. So most likely we'll have the report done by our September meeting. If members want to meet in August and have this presented sooner than later, we can definitely do that and work it out. But I think folks would appreciate having a break in August and not have to worry about BOPC things. So with that being said, if any of the chiefs want to weigh in at all, have their reports, so they've delivered on their aspect, and if there's anything outstanding, me or the vice chair will reach out once we have a chance to review them. Yeah, that's it. Any questions on that? Seeing none, I'm just gonna do really quick clarification from RCMP HRP. Is there anything you'd like to leave us with, or are we good to go?
Well, thanks, Chair. I'll just say quickly, and you noted it in your comments, that our public update regarding our work on the recommendations will be posted to our website next week. It's just pending translation into French, and it will go up divisionally here very soon. That would be my only comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chair. And we have discussed, so if the will is, we can post ours as well, or we can wait till the BOPC report comes out. We're happy to participate. I think one of the important things that will come out of this, and the joining per se of the reports, whether between the DOJ, RCMP, and ourselves, will be that allow us to make some joint decisions going forward on some timings around some of the deliverables. So that would be my only comment, and obviously further discussion would be required between all three of us.
Thank you. Any closing comments from commissioners? Seeing none, there's no motion to accept, and we'll have further discussion in September, and if needed, we'll have it in August. Moving on to 10.1.3, Royal Canadian Mounted Police in Halifax Regional Police Crime Statistics, and we'll start with the HRP, please, and thank you.
Thanks, Chair, and through you to the group. So it comes to you as a report over the last 6 months from January to June. It is compiled biannually. We put it together for this time. The RCMP did it back in January. We did work with the RCMP, Ray Hoban, to ensure that the stats were accurate across the board. And the numbers are there before the commission, and happy to take any questions on the report itself if you have any.
I have a question, Mr.
Sorry,
Chair.
Yep, Commissioner Kent.
Thank you. So what I'm seeing in our package, it is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police Regional Municipality of Halifax Statistics Overview. Is there something supposed to be here from UHRP, or is there a combination report that I should be seeing?
So I don't know what you're looking at, Commissioner, and through you, Chair, but It is a joint report put together by both the RCMP and HRP for the collective statistics for HRM.
Okay, so Ian, could you clarify if what, it could just be that it's, I see it's on letterhead, but what I see is Halifax District and then all the stats, but there's nothing on this document that was included in our invitation with all of our supporting docs. It's 10.1.3. Sorry, yeah, 10.1.3. To confirm that we're looking at what Chief is referring to?
Councillor Kent, I'm getting confirmation right now. The HRP documents will be emailed directly to you momentarily.
Okay, thank you. So what I'm seeing in the RCMP one, is that exclusively to RCMP? It's sounding like.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Councillor, I don't know what you're looking at.
Yeah,
The document
no,
that was submitted, the document that was submitted is a joint document, and that is a document, perhaps the RCMP submitted a separate one, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either, and so I'll just
I'm
wait to
just-
see.
Yeah, I'm just wondering really quickly if the clerks can put it on the screen so everyone can see what we should be looking at. Because I know I do have one that has the, and which I know Commissioner Kent's looking at. This is the one that was in the email update. And it's the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. It has the crest, the RCMP
Yeah.
crest in the corner. So, okay, so that's the one that I saw, and I didn't see, and I thought they were joints, but one of my questions was going to be, was there supposed to be one that was different?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm just wondering if the clerks can just put on the screen what document we should have.
In case
Sorry.
anybody-
Sorry, Chair Smith, we're just coordinating, making sure that both of us aren't doing the same thing over here. Andrea will be sharing that momentarily.
Right. So just got the revised, and this one has, this is different than what's in the email. This one has both crests on it. Right. Yeah. So this is the one we just got.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at here.
Okay.
Oh, so where did you, did that get emailed? It didn't come to
Just
me.
now. Just now. So what I think happened is the RCMP, we received the RCMP separate because that one has a little bit more information, and then this is the combined. Okay. So just returning back, I'll give Commissioner Ken, if you want to take a moment to look at that, and if you have any questions, you can. Did you have any questions in general you wanted to ask?
No, not specifically. It's hard. I can't scroll this or anything, and I've not received the one that supposedly went out in email. So
Right. Okay,
I'm
so
gonna
we'll wait a
yeah.
moment, and if you want to come back, you're
Yeah,
more than
that's fine.
more than welcome. Yeah,
I may
Commissioner
not. I
Blackburn.
will see.
Yeah, Commissioner Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And no, just a quick question for both chiefs. I'm just, we've got the comparison of 2020 to 2021, and on the surface, it would look like, you know, things are way up. But I guess the better comparison would be 2019 to 2021. And I'm just wondering, how are we doing when we compare 2019 to 21 so far? Thank you.
Either chiefs, if you want to jump in, more than welcome.
So thanks, Commissioner, and through you, Chair. I don't have 2019 in front of me. However, we did release those statistics on this same schedule last year. So that should be an easy check. One of the things, you know, that have gone up and is jumping out on that page is in the area of theft overs. So we have seen a significant increase in the theft overs. almost 90% increase over the 6 months. And I think it's important to remember that this is an HRM-wide document, and that speaks to our collective efforts as an integrated policing service, particularly in the area of CID, to address some of these issues. So, 2020 was a bit of an outlier in regards to COVID. And, one of the things, if you look down under the provincial offenses, liquor in particular, we've seen a 67% drop in liquor offenses. A lot of that would be related to COVID and the number of bars that were open, the people on the streets, those kind of things, particularly in the high areas of the different waves that came forward. And for example, we had phase 4 opening heading into this previous weekend, and we saw a lot more pedestrian and vehicle traffic downtown. So I think we'll see that kind of, attention to those types of offenses will probably balance out. But I'm happy to get the 2019 statistics and provide a report. I just don't have them in front of me. I'm not sure if Chief Superintendent Leather does or not. But this has been the standard that we have been reported, but happy to get 2019 if that's helpful.
No, that's good. I'm good with that. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Any other questions or comments from commissioners at all?
Just wondering if Chief Leather could weigh in on that
Yep.
as well.
Thank you, Commissioner, through the chair. And so I would just add to Chief Kinsella's comments. I think we see in the areas of, for instance, robberies, a market increase, but statistically small. I mean, from 6 to 9. And we look at things in the last year, such as the donning of masks, for instance, by a number of the suspects who were involved in these robberies. The same is to be true on the shoplifting aspect, on the theft under. So, the unanticipated or unexpected consequences of folks masking up and some of the folks involved in these crime areas donning masks and perpetrating those crimes. The other part I would draw your attention to down under provincial for traffic is, as you well know, a number of our traffic resources now coming back online with their traffic duties, many of them having been assisting in Northeast Nova in particular last year, post Portapique, in replacing some of the GD members. And frankly, there's a lot more circulation of vehicles on the roads now. And so you see a significant uptick in the enforcement numbers there and incidents under traffic. Those would be my only comments.
All right. Thank you very much for that.
Commissioner. Any other comments? No. Well, I'll speak from the chair. One of the comments I was going to mention exactly what Commissioner Blackburn, you mentioned, is 2019. So I'm wondering if it's possible for this to be revised to include 19, because I think that's an important comparison for folks to understand. And the other question related to that, I don't know if either Chief Chief Leather, related to COVID or provincial health enforcement. So masks, folks who didn't follow the public health orders. Where would that fall under any of the categories on the stats? Would that be under general provincial, or do you have, for your stats, do you have that broken out and it just gets included into the general provincial enforcement pieces?
Thanks, Chair. And as you pointed out there, yes, there was a great deal more enforcement again going on late 2020, early 2021 during those phases of quarantine and self-isolation, for instance, and a number of calls for service around the province, including HRM, for enforcement of those areas. And so depending on whether it was in fact quarantine, which is federal, or provincial related to the provincial act that the chief health officer put into place, the orders, I should say, of course, would show up in the general categories, but and we do have those stats more specifically, sir, if you're looking for those, say in the September session, where we could break that out for those timeframes when our members were quite busy enforcing those two acts of legislation and orders.
Okay, thank you. So I'm wondering, and I'll get feedback from the commissioners here, if we think it'd be worthwhile to have a revised, and this would be different than what we're usually, so this follows what we've asked for and what we were supposed to receive as our annual report. So I'm wondering if we want to get maybe another one that includes 19 and the public health related instances as well, as because this is as we all know, it's been a pretty different year and a bit. So having those comparisons, but also some of the other aspects could be useful. But before I ask for that, I'm wondering if commissioners feel that that'd be worthwhile or not. Commissioner McDougall, and then Commissioner Blackburn.
I think it would be worthwhile. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Commissioner Blackburn.
I agree. I think, you know, the stats that come from 2020 are going to be an anomaly. So in order to get I think a better picture of where we are, I think we do need to see the 19 as part of this so that we can sort of compare apples to apples. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Clerk, I'm wondering if this is something that needs a motion, or is this something that we can ask and just have at our next meeting as maybe a follow-up item, or yeah, I'm not sure exactly.
I will defer to the chiefs on this, but I believe a motion would not be required. I think it's been pretty clear what's being asked for, but I will defer to the chiefs if they believe they need a motion for that direction.
Okay.
Through you, Chair, I don't believe we need a motion either, but I think it would be useful to have some clarification. I understand that you're looking for 2019 compared to 2020 compared to 2021. I heard the word annual in there. I don't know if you want annual for 19, annual for 20, year to date for 21. We can do that. I also heard that there's two possible different sets of statistics there. One individual for the RCMP and then a joint one. I'm wondering if it would be helpful if you had individual from both organizations. That might add some clarity and allow some filtering and distilling of perhaps questions that you might have for particular areas. So I'm just looking for some clarity on exactly what you would like to see. And currently what we do is biannual, the 6 months. So you would get January to June, which is what is before you for 21. We generally compare it to the previous year. We could compare it to the previous 3 years, if that would be helpful, to give you a broader picture of what's occurring and maybe look at some trending and those kind of things. And then in January, you would have normally got July to December. So I think there's a real opportunity here based on the conversation and the questions from commissioners to tailor this basically any way you would like to see it. And I'm happy to work with Chief Superintendent Leather or Chief Superintendent Gray as well to tailor that to meet the needs of the commission.
Great, thank you. So my comment would be, not having the expertise in statistical clarification. If you and you're working with the RCMP, have an idea of what's best to present that comparison to us, I'm sure that you all will come up with a way that will really give us an idea of trends, including 19. And the other piece was including the health orders related to the RCMP, and if there's any HRP related ones as well. So that would be separate from presenting it to us. So I don't know what the best way might be for that information to be presented to us, but if you if you want to take that back, and in our next meeting would be September, so that would give some time to kind of think how that should be presented. I could give you an idea of what I think, but I also would rather you take it back to your folks, and they could probably present us with a better way that will allow us to truly see the trends and understand the data better.
So, pending comments from Chief Superintendent Leather, that works for me. I'm happy to work with Chief Superintendent Leather or Chief Gray on her return and come back with something to the board for consideration in September.
Okay, great. Does that work for you, Chief Superintendent Leather?
Yes, Chair, that's fine. We'll work with Chief Kinsella, of course, and compile those stats for the fall meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any further comments from commissioners? All right, so let me get my agenda back up here. So there's no motion for that, but we will get further information for our next meeting so we can better look at the trends and understand some of the impacts that the pandemic had on some of the service calls that we've seen with both forces. So moving on to our next item. So thank you again, everyone, for discussion there. Moving on to our next item, which is 10.1.4, Halifax Regional Police and Royal Canadian Mounted Police financial reporting. And we'll start with the RCMP Chief Superintendent Chris Leather, please.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm referring here to our year-by-year budget analysis slide, which I think the board was provided with. And what I would say is this analysis that I have here is our discretionary spending only analysis 1920, 2021, 21, 22. And that for more financial information pertaining to our service delivery, of course, Department of Justice is the appropriate contact point for the board for that information. I do not have that information myself at my disposal. I could say in relation to the analysis that I have here, that our discretionary spending is slightly increased in the 2021-2022. I can also say that our budget has not yet been delivered. It's to be determined for 21-22, given the time of year. That's not unusual. I could say that some of those expenditures in the discretionary area related to overtime, for instance, would most recently have to do with our investigations and resourcing of the gang conflict, but more specifically related to Preston. And of course, we will see an increase in our overall budget as a relation to what will likely be a successful ratification of the pay raises across the board for the RCMP here and by the 26th, as a matter of fact. And that's, of course, between the Treasury Board and the National Police Federation, or the union that represents the membership. And that, by the way, as you would know, is for the rank of staff sergeant down to constable. So those are the key points, Chair, subject to any questions that you or the board may have related to the slide.
Thank you, Chief. Any commissioner comments? Commissioner McDougall?
Thank you. I was just wondering if you could remind me about the year, what the year for the RCMP is. Is it April to March 31st? Is it calendar year? How does that work?
Yes, it is April, ma'am, to March 31st. That's correct.
Commissioner McDougall, good? Okay, thank you. Commissioner Blackburn, okay? Good, okay. So thanks again, Chief. Really quickly on my end, related to the the salary increases. So that is something that's directly negotiated with the Treasury, Provincial Treasury Board, and the RCMP union, members union.
Chair, that's with the Federal Treasury Board by
Okay.
the union. Yes.
Okay, got you. So this is something that gets, for simple terms, downloaded from federal to provincial, and then for us, because we have the joint unit, but it really comes down from the federal government and the provincial government to find out how they're going to pay for it.
That's correct.
Okay, got you. So then that relates to the comment on the presentation. If we want more information, we would obviously have to go to the provincial government, who has control over the overall budget.
Yes, and they frankly would be getting a more detailed update and briefing from the Federal Treasury Board down through the Department of Justice across the country, and including our own DOJ would have much more detail to provide.
Got you. So thank you very much. I'll go to you next, Carol or Commissioner Dougal. Marty, I'm wondering on your end, are you aware, and maybe even this might be something for Andrew or Mr. Galt, has there ever been a time where the commission has asked for more budget information from the DOJ?
From the provincial DOJ?
Yeah.
I'm not aware of the commission itself having asked for more information.
Right.
There have been, most of the discussions, as I understand it, have gone on between the CAO's office and the province, right?
So I know Jacques is out right now, and we have the esteemed Brad Anglish, who's acting CAO. So I won't put him on in the hot seat. So I'm wondering from commissioners, and we don't have everybody here, but Commissioner McDougall, you've been around the table longer than all of us. Has there been, I know there's been discussions around the finances of RCMP and et cetera, but I don't, from my understanding, I don't think the commission has ever went to the provincial DOJ formally to ask for that information. So are you, because I know we've talked about it even before I've gotten here, but are you aware of the commission ever formally asking for that information related to the RCMP?
No, not aware of any time when I think it's been a challenging kind of question, in the sense that there's so many different bodies involved in the memorandum of agreement.
Right.
And so I think no, the answer is no, but it could be worthwhile to ask for that and see what happens. I think it's a good time, given the negotiations with the union.
So agreed. So we're at a funny place, because we would have to wait to ask for that now that the writ has dropped, and I believe the term is called stewardship mode or caretaker mode. So most of our provincial departments are pretty much, they're just operating. Nothing new is being allowed to be worked on because election has been called. So I think it'd be great if we had a motion today to ask for that information, but we won't get it because they won't be able to respond to it. So I'm wondering if maybe, and I could probably work with legal and CAO and RCMP to formulate an ask, and maybe it's in a form of a letter for I'm not exactly sure what would be given to us, but I think the commission should ask for some type of reporting from the Provincial Department of Justice related to the budget. But again, that could be an ask that we don't receive because of the way that the agreement is set up. So I'll go to Marty, then I'll come to you, Commissioner Kent.
I just wanted to add that the actual decision on how the municipality is policed, whether it's a combination or one or the other, actually falls to council itself. And I think because of that, it's as opposed to if council decides they're going to go a certain way, well, then the commission has a role under the statute, right? But the actual decision itself is that of council. So I think the information, it's a question of whether the information should be requested by the commission of council to request, right? You know what I mean? As opposed to a direct request to the, and as Commissioner McDougall said, there's a whole bunch of parties involved in this on the agreement, right? But council ultimately decides what the, how much RCMP they want to buy, for example, right?
Okay, good point. So it would sound like if we were to make a motion, to be a motion that council requests information on et cetera, et cetera.
That's my thought. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Got you, Commissioner Kent.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm a little bit confused about when we say ask for more information. I think that we would have to have a conversation if it was going to come from us or from council, a better understanding of what it is you're looking for. I do feel as well that we have had a motion of council to look at a review in relation to comparing apples to apples with the RCMP and HRP. And I would suspect that some of that's going to come out there. Are we getting ahead of it by asking for something more detail now? I just feel like we're preempting that. And that's going to take a large piece of resources just to get that report put together. So I'm uncomfortable with asking and putting a motion today without understanding a little bit more about what it is that we're actually, that you're trying to get to. What information is missing that you really need here at the commission?
Right. And then really quickly, I'll respond and I'll go to Commissioner McDougall. So wouldn't put anything forward today because we wouldn't even get an answer because the government, the election was called. So it'd be maybe something for our next meeting coming. The other piece really would be as information because of the impact of the budget impact that is put forward towards HRM related to the policing budget. So we get the discretionary from our chiefs, which that's what they are present to us, and they provide as much information as they can. But a lot of times what happens is we get questions from council during budget time. Well, and this is the question from council goes to the board, us. We want to know more about the RCMP budget, and then when we relay that information in the information that's provided to us by the chiefs of RCMP is what it is, because that's all they have control over. There's always this feeling that the RCMP is not providing us information on their budget, when really it's not really their job. That's something that the DOJ should be providing to us if we want more information. So really the question is, and that's why I don't know exactly what that is, but I know council has commented many times that we want to know more about the budget and what is being put on towards us, and how is the DOJ deciding how much should be put into the RCMP discretionary budget. What is this, how do they spend money when related to vehicles and et cetera, et cetera. So we haven't had that discussion here at the board because we know what information can be discussed, and that's what we have presented today. But we're continuing to see more and more questions related to the budget, and we don't have the answers because that's provided by the DOJ. So I don't know exactly what we've asked for. Really, I'm just trying to get understanding what has been asked for in the past, because I know this is a discussion that I've had with Chief Gray many times, that she gets asked for information that she doesn't have. So I think, so what I was going to say is I think what Marty said is it goes to council. This would probably be a motion at council to have a discussion, and then that's where we could really get an idea of what is actually being asked for.
The other, would it not be helpful as well that, and I don't know if they do it, and it would but it would be a bureaucratic and less about the election. So it could be requested through us, is to have a presentation from DOJ to the board to help us understand how it's worked through, whether or not it has answers to what we have. It would be helpful as a board member, at least how, from a DOJ perspective, they look at the RCMP contract and how they allocate those resources. Maybe that's something we could request in the near future, because I think you're right. An election does certainly allocated to the RCMP, and that'll get hung up, particularly if there's a new government, the process goes. Anyway, something to think about.
No, thank you. And in my last discussion, well, one of my last discussions with DOJ was related to our provincial appointment, but also when we do get new members, that they should come in and do a presentation, and they say they're more than happy to do that. So that can be added to that piece if they could talk about the budget. So I'll just make a note that when they do come in, to ask them to have something ready for budgeting as well. Marty, I see your hand still up. You still have a comment? Yep. Okay.
The only thing I would remind the board of, and sometimes we lose sight of this, is that the board is really two different boards, right? It's a board of police commissioners for the municipal police, under which you review their budget and send it on to council. But with respect to the RCMP, it's really it's an advisory board, which is a different place in it, and with a bit of a different function. The complexity, however, becomes there are times when the RCMP is approaching the board, right, to talk about resourcing, right, with the view of the board going to council as a first initiating step to council. And the other thing is there are times when council is looking to the board, right, for your expertise on these things. So it's certainly, this is the kind of information I think the board needs, but it's just a question of the route through which it gets it, I think.
Thank you, Commissioner McDougall.
So I just have another question for Chief Leathers. You mentioned July 26. Is that the date that this agreement will become effective? Did I hear that correctly?
That's when the decision, or I should say the tabulated vote from the members who voted on the proposed working agreement and raises will be known. And if it's positive, of course, 50% or more, it'll be ratified.
Okay, that was the first question. And the second was, do you know if by any chance this agreement will be retroactive?
Yes, it will be retroactive to 2017. For serving members, it will come more quickly than those that have retired. Those that have retired but who were working, let's say, for instance, in the 2017, for argument's sake, the 2019 timeframe, will also receive retro pay, but at a later date.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any further comments from members? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Chief Leather. Moving on to the RCMP financial reporting.
Thanks, Chair, and through you to the Board of Police Commissioners. You have the information report that's been submitted, so I'll just do a bit of an opening, and then I have Mr. Craig Horton here, the head of our finance, to answer any detailed questions that you might have. So you'll see that we have a net operating budget surplus of just over $2 million. And to Commissioner Blackburn's point earlier, 2020 was an anomaly and very interesting dealing with COVID. And of the surplus, approximately 565,000 is due to impacts from COVID. And then beyond that, the WCB transition, which actually happened in September of 2019, but didn't really get calculated out until January of 2020, has shown an impact of $595,000. That will not be reflected in future budgets because of details that Mr. Horton can explain. And then finally, the last piece is attrition and turnover, unpaid leave, pre-retirement is approximately 43% of the overall surplus. So despite our best efforts to fill jobs as quickly as we can, we never know when people are going to be leaving, and oftentimes some positions are vacancy managed while we wait to fill them. And then when you couple that with some of the challenges of COVID, completing interviews, whether virtually, those kind of things, trying to get candidates from across the country, things are beginning to stabilize now. But those are the three main impacts of the area. And we expect to spend more of that money as we transition into a more normal state with phase 4 reopening, et cetera, and getting into a kind of more regular spending pattern, whether it be for training, overtime, core time, those kind of things, or otherwise. So having said that, I just wanted to give a little brief, high level. All of that is in the report that was submitted to you. And I do have Mr. Horton here with me, should there be any detailed questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Beckman.
No, just a quick question. I'm just curious. So if you wind up the fiscal year with, continuing on track, and you end up with a $2 million surplus, what happens to that $2 million?
Well, that $2 million we won't be spending it, obviously, and it will be returned to the overall budget with HRM.
Beautiful. Thank you, sir.
Any other commissioners with comments? Oh, we lost Commissioner Kent.
Chair Smith, we're working on connecting with Councillor Kent right now. I would suggest we pause the meeting as we do not have quorum without the councillor here.
Right. So, so does that mean we just take a quick break, or? So, oh, I see you're in the meeting now. So a procedure question while Commissioner Kent gets back in the meeting. So if we don't have quorum, we can't make a decision, obviously, but could we still continue the meeting with motions, or we have to stop the meeting if we don't have quorum?
You could hear presentations, and our recommendation would be to stop, as you should not be making decisions or be really debating any decisions. We do have Councillor Kent back in the meeting, and we do have quorum.
Okay.
I'm on my phone. I'm having a glitch here with my computer, so I'll work on that but I'll stay on the phone. So you have quorum.
And we can hear you fine, so that's great.
Good. Okay.
Thank you. Sorry. So going back to RCMP financial reporting, any comments from commissioners? Further comments? Seeing none. Commissioner Kent, you're on the phone, so you're probably just still off mute, so that's fine. All right. Well,
I don't have any further questions. Sorry.
Okay. No, that's fine. Thank you. All right. Well, I don't have any further comments on the budget. One was related to what happens with the surplus, and the other one is really just a future thought. And this is a hard one to answer from Chief. Do we expect going into next budget to be discussing any further, not increases shouldn't be the word, but any impacts going into the next budget we should probably be thinking about in the back of our minds as we mentally prepare for budget coming up in the future?
So thanks, Chair, and through you to the Commission. As I mentioned, we expect to get into more what I would call normal spending. I think it's evident that we're always fiscally responsible and paying attention. But a lot of the surplus that is realized here will not continue when we come out of COVID. So we can expect a more leveling and balancing of the budget going forward. The other piece to your question is, we are always constantly evaluating whether an increase may come, depending on, staffing needs, where we are with, how many officers we need, how many civilians we need. We saw that in our last budget presentation, although there was no sworn asks, there was civilian asks. There may be sworn asks coming up for the future election. Body-worn cameras will hopefully be back on the table for discussion. And then finally, the collective agreement with the HRPA is currently outstanding. So there may be some increases coming from whatever settlements come out of that particular discussion moving forward. So those are the things that just for future planning and to put it in on the table for the board, I think it's worth some consideration, at least in my opinion.
Okay, great. And that's exactly what I was wondering. It's just things to think about in the future. Commissioner McDougall?
Yes, I was just wondering when the collective agreement with HRPA expires.
I believe, and I'll ask, you know what, I'll let Mr. Ward reply to that. He'll have the details.
The agreement expired over a year ago, and we had collective bargaining since last September, and we're now moving to interest arbitration.
Okay.
Anything further, Commissioner McDougall?
I have a question, and I'm not quite sure exactly how to ask it or what. I'm just wondering with this, with what's happened over 2020 and now into 2021 with this budget surplus, what has not been done, or what from the point of view of the chief, what's outstanding in terms of the things that you would have hoped to have done and didn't get? This may be a bigger question and maybe even a September response, but I'm just curious to know if there's sort of, you have a 3 or 5 point list of things that you just kind of say, I wish we'd been able to do this, this, and this. And if you can't answer that right now, that's fine. I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, appreciate the question, Commissioner, and through you, Chair. I won't go into too much detail because, the needs of the organization from a financial perspective are reported on at the budget cycle. So this past budget cycle in the end of 2020, I brought forward a number of requests to the board that then were passed on to the council. Some got approved, some did not, some were stayed over till the following year, and we will bring those back. The reason I can't go into too much particular detail here, Commissioner, is because when we bring those asks forward, I want to make sure that we've done our homework. We've evaluated alternate ways to deliver the service. Is this truly something that we need? And I brought those requests to the board before. You'll recall in 2019, there was a request for some increased supervision within the organization. And I received very specific instructions from council on that. And I took those instructions to heart. And we made the changes that we could to continue ensure that we're providing the service here. So there's going to be needs, but they need to be reasonable needs. As an organization, myself and the team, we spend a lot of time evaluating alternative ways to deliver. Is it truly something we need? And we will continue to do that. I'm certainly happy to prepare a report for you and bring forward to the commission. The only thing that I would suggest is we will be coming forward again in late October, early November with next year's budget. And part of that, as I mentioned to the chair's question a minute ago, part of that will be potentially, once we've done all our homework, and we've got a number of projects on the go, the priority response review and our deployment model review, to name a few, that will inform some of those requests that I might bring forward to the commission. And it'll be sound, it'll be detailed, so the commission has everything they need to make an informed decision on whether they support the request or not. I'll leave it at that, and I hope that's helpful, Vice Chair.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Anything further? All right, so there's no motion to accept on that item. So thank you both chiefs for the financial reports. So going to the strategic plan updates, 10.1.5, Health Regional Police and Royal Canadian Mounted Police strategic plan updates. And we'll start with Chief Kinsella as well. I believe there's a PowerPoint presentation for this.
So thanks, Chair, and my thanks for getting the PowerPoint up on the board there. I'll take you through the presentation, and I would ask the slides be advanced on request, please. So for the board, I'll provide a brief overall summary of the HRP 10-year strategic plan before reporting on the current status of the 2021-2022 deliverables we have been bringing forward to the board. As commissioners, you know the HRP strategic plan has many overlaps with the business plan that is presented to council, but it is also distinct in many ways. The strategic plan outlines our overall values, is an aspirational document, unlike the business plan, which is more focused on council priorities and administrative deliverables. I would like to note that a number of the deliverables in both plans are linked. The current HRP strategic plan was put in place in 2015 as a 10-year vision document. A refresh was conducted in 2018, just prior to my arrival here in Halifax. With the changing environment and discussions that are currently taking place around policing, and more specifically, the Halifax Regional Police, we expect to do a refresh at a practical time in the future, although I expect that we will retain many of the same principles from our strategic plan document. Next slide, please. Sorry, and I neglected to advance again. If you could advance one more time, please. So the key strategic themes that we have, there's 3 of them: crime reduction and improved quality of life, safe communities and partnerships, and effective and innovative police service. You will have all seen these before, I'm sure, in some format. And the strategic plan deliverables that we're going to present today are for 2021, 2022, and are aligned with one or more of these key strategic themes. Next slide, please. So the first deliverable I want to talk about today is career development and succession planning. We are approximately 70% done of that particular deliverable. It is project managed by Deputy Chief Reid McCombs. And I'll note here that through the implementation of the new org structure back at the beginning of 2020 and preparing for ongoing attrition, we have had at various levels of the organization, we have seen a lot of advancement and career opportunities for a number of our members. We also recently rolled out an acting NCO program, or acting sergeant program, within the organization to allow many of our frontline members an opportunity to try out the position, gain some experience, build confidence, and included with that is it allows other more senior members at the NCO level and at the watch commander level to mentor these upcoming officers to help them adjust to the role and puts them in a much better position when the time comes for a potential promotion to the rank of sergeant. And what we really want to do is prepare bench strength for the future, and we really want to expose new employees at all levels to different experiences and learning opportunities. And as we advance this plan, our next step is to prepare a formal and well-documented career development program, which will be linked with a performance management framework. Next slide, please. The next deliverable that I want to talk about is a community survey. And as the board is well aware, the police-specific community survey has not yet been rolled out. However, we have had extensive discussion on an overall framework, priorities, and we have also selected a vendor who will help craft the rollout of this survey at the appropriate time. Obviously, lots of discussion has to occur between the board, our partners in policing at the RCMP, to make sure that we're asking the questions that we want to answer and that we're delivering a survey that's appropriate and going to get us the valuable information that we're seeking from the community. The other piece I think that we need to be cognizant about, and I have mentioned this before, is survey fatigue. It's something that we need to consider. And right now, the municipality is preparing to roll out their citizen survey, and it should be coming, I think, within the next few months. And as part of that, and along with the RCMP, we've been having good dialogue with Corporate Planning Office, who has also engaged with the Public Safety Advisor, as well as diversity and inclusion teams. So, this joint input is very important to ensure that when we're putting out the survey, and we'll do it collectively, at least in my view, we have had the benefit of everyone having the opportunity to provide input. And the other piece of the survey too, it's a little bit COVID related. We're really hoping to, get those community town halls going, community focus groups, and try to get some of those done in person. So as we ease the COVID restrictions, I think that is certainly doable, depending on where we agree to go as a team with all of us as stakeholders at the table. Next slide, please. The next deliverable is the street checks report response. We talked about that. Well, I didn't talk about it. The chair talked about it earlier in the meeting. And we have completed our 2-year update report and submitted it. We've had a lot of ongoing dialogue around that. What does it look like? How do we move forward? Are we going to approach it, provincially in certain areas, or are we going to keep it more HRM focused? So more discussion to come on that. But Deputy Chief Don McLean is currently co-chairing a multi-stakeholder committee, which is charged with bringing a collaborative and multi-stakeholder view on the policy, legislative, and research implications related to the recommendations of the Wortley report. And additionally, as you will see in our upcoming 2-year status report, when that is delivered, we've also individually accomplished some of the recommendations. And we've also worked closely with the RCMP on some of them to ensure that we've rolled them out locally. And what I would say is, where appropriate, we've joined in the provincial discussion with the DOJ, and that discussion continues through you, Chair, with Bill Trask at the DOJ, to make sure we have a good collaborative product that we're bringing forward. And a number of the deliverables within the Wortley report are going to be ongoing. We've had this conversation a number of times. Community engagement and training is something that, although we've made some very good advancements forward, I think it's something that we're going to have to maintain over the years and continue to sustain, whether it be training and adjusting to, different ideas and suggestions that come from the community, much like we did with Journey to Change. We know that we're constantly getting feedback from the community on that, and we're open to changing to make sure that we're continually meeting the needs. And community consultation, there's a couple Wortley recommendations that speak to that. Exceedingly important that we keep the dialogue going as we move forward. And I don't think we'll ever be truly done on those recommendations. There's something that are going to be need to be sustained over the long term. The other piece to that is, what we do with recruitment. We currently have a cadet class that's up and running. Recruitment is something that we'll always focus on. And part of that is to make sure that the community sees themselves in the police service that is serving them. So we'll continue to do that and continue to work forward on this strategic plan. We have made some good progress, and we expect to make more collectively together as we go forward. Next slide, please. The next strategic deliverable is a secure online communications portal. As you may recall, and speaking of our budget questions just a little bit earlier, this project was brought forward as part of the budget process this past year, but we have been asked to hold off on it until next year and bring it forward again, which we will do. We've made some slight adjustments in between to make sure that we can provide the service but we're not providing it as good and effectively as we can. So that is a budget request that'll come forward to the commission again in November for consideration. And the 20% progress percentage completed represents a review that was completed just prior to my arrival to demonstrate the need to build a business case for this secure online intranet internally. So that's just one example of something that will return. And obviously, we're going to be reasonable and work with the parameters of the budgeting process to see where we go with that. Next slide, please. The next deliverable that I want to talk about is the technology roadmap. And you'll see as we went through the slide, and I'm sure you have it in front of you, you can look back to see where they're tied in the key areas. The technology roadmap particularly fits into crime reduction and improved quality of life and effective and innovative police service. So this is a comprehensive framework, and as the summary indicates, it's spread out over many years with different projects that are at various stages of completion. We continue to make lots of progress related to HRP's evolving IT needs, refreshing our existing technologies, and becoming increasingly better when it comes to cycle security and stewardship of our online properties. You'll also know that we are working very diligently here at HRP to make sure we're meeting the recommendations of the recent IT audit, and we're progressing very well in that area. But like any IT related projects, oftentimes they do involve a financial impact. So we want to make sure that we do it right and we do it as efficiently as we can. Some of the examples are ongoing software and hardware updates and associated training to those updates that occur pretty much on a regular basis. Next slide, please. And performance excellence training is another deliverable that we are working on. And while we haven't had an opportunity due to the COVID-19 and some of the challenges with establishing in-person training, and one of our goals is to continue to train our members in performance excellence. We are applying the methodologies of performance excellence with some trained individuals when we are doing the work on the priority response review, and obviously as it relates to the IT audit, which I've related to in the past. We are using those principles to ensure that we are efficiently working through the various projects that we have. Next slide, please. In our priority response review, we've had conversation about this in the past at the commission level and at the board level, so we continue to work on that. We are about 50% through the comprehensive review, and it has a multidisciplinary team that is doing work on a number of fronts for this project. And upon completion, it will give us a comprehensive current state of awareness of our current response model, what we're going to, how much time it takes to get there, should we be going, how we're capturing different call types, and should we be making some changes in that area to ensure that we are delivering services effectively as we can. And to the Vice Chair's point earlier, and I did mention the results of this and the next project that'll be up on the screen in a moment will help us inform from a strategic and evidence-based approach to say, what are the needs and asks of the Halifax Regional Police moving forward? So you can have that information on your radar and be thinking about it and contribute to the conversation as we move forward. Next slide, please. The final one that we'll talk about today is our review of our patrol deployment model. Again, we're about 20% complete on this. It hits all three key areas, and it will be informed by the results of the priority response review. So from there, we'll move to see, how are officers responding? What are the layouts of the beats and the sectors? Should we be moving, officers around or having more officers in a certain area? And again, it'll be informed by logic and statistics and information, and we'll be able to make a very informed and I believe compelling case for efficient and effective policing here in Halifax moving forward. I know that's a bit of a long update, and I shared a lot with you there. I'm happy to take any questions, but I think it gives you a pretty good overview of kind of where we're sitting moving forward as it relates to the strategic plan.
Thank you, Chief. Very comprehensive. Any comments from commissioners on the presentation? Commissioner McDougall.
I do too want to thank you, because as I was reading through this, I was thinking these words were really interesting, but I didn't know what they mean. And so having you review and give some detail really makes it more of a living document and easy to understand. So I just wanted to ask a couple of questions. One is, I'm not familiar with HRM's performance excellence model, and I wondered if you could just talk a little bit about that. And then I have a second question after that.
Thanks, Vice Chair, and through you, Chair, to the Commission. The performance excellence training is offered through HRM. It is a comprehensive level-stepped approach based on the Lean Sigma theory. I'm not an expert on it, Vice Chair, but I have taken the initial training to get some ideas. It's based on a belting system, so you can become a yellow belt and then a green belt and move through the various stages. And we do have a number of our members trained, and we're working hard to get others trained up to at least a green belt level. Then they're given projects to be able to apply the techniques and knowledge that they learn through the course. And fundamentally, again, I might be off a little bit with the detail, but it really is about delivering things more efficiently, coming up with new ideas, cutting out red tape, those kind of things, and moving forward with projects to basically make us more efficient and effective, and even more economical in some areas. So it's a comprehensive program with a number of steps that people can go. It's actually very well received here within the organization. A number of the members have attended. As I said, we'll continue to send them once they get up and running. So I hope that's a little bit helpful, and I can get you more detailed information on that if you would like it.
Thank you. Much clearer. And so my other question is really around priority response, and I don't think I have a specific question right now for you to explain at length, but I'm hoping we can have a presentation on how priority response is managed going forward, perhaps in a planned meeting, maybe September, October, just because it would be good to know how calls are handled, how they get passed on, where they get called into. Can you get any response if you don't call 911, that kind of thing? Just really curious to know, because it's something that's just sort of out there, but I don't think we've ever really had a presentation to explain what it's all about. And I noticed you did, you recognized some people for their excellence in responding, and I'm assuming it's through the 911 call center. So I'm just hoping we can look at some of that in the future. Thank you.
And through your chair, certainly we can, Vice Chair, we can. We'd be happy to bring something forward at a meeting of convenience for the board. Just very quickly, and kind of I won't go into too much detail. Really, the way that we respond to calls is based on a priority system. They're either a priority 1, 2, or 3. We also have reinstated and kind of developed our callback unit to say, are there some things that a uniform response should not be going to? So they're available to do those high priority ones and calls. Priority 1, baby not breathing, officer needs assistance, perhaps armed robbery in progress, those kind of things. Priority 2, and what it means between the priorities is the length of time that, that we can reasonably wait till we dispatch an officer. So priority 1, we've got to get going right away. Priority 2, potentially 15 minutes. What we're doing in regards to our priority response review is taking a comprehensive look because things change over the years, to say, are the calls in the right priority? And should we be responding quicker? Are we okay with the way we're responding? Is there an alternative method of response? Telephone call, internet reporting, all those options that we have. So I won't go into too much detail today, but certainly to your point, I'm happy to bring back a more fulsome presentation whenever it suits the board.
Thank you.
Is that it, Commissioner? Commissioner McDougall, good? Yes, I'm assuming that's a yes. Anything else from other commissioners? Questions on the update? Seeing none. Two questions from me. So again, thank you, Chief, for the information. Would this be considered phase 3 of the 10-year strategic plan?
Sorry about that, Chair. Struggling with my mute button. Okay, I think I'm on now.
Yep.
So officially, this would be considered the second phase.
Okay.
And the first phase ended in 18, so we're kind of into the second phase, potentially moving into the third phase. Supposed to end in 2025, so we've still got 4 years to go. So we're kind of right in that, sweet spot. The challenge with a 10-year plan is that sometimes the things that were, a priority and something that we should look at in 2015 may not be the same type of priority in 2021 based on changes in the environment, global issues that arise in policing, which we've seen a ton, pandemics that come on board, those kind of things. So earlier in my presentation, I did talk about doing a refresh at the appropriate time. Obviously, the commission would be involved in that and consulted and asked to participate. So, based on the environment and with everything happening currently, we're just kind of waiting to see where we get some of the direction, both from council and from yourselves as the commission, based on the various reports that are out there, the various motions that have come from council. And what we don't want to do is rush down the road creating new strategic directions without having a good foundation of not only where you want to go as the Board of Commissioners and where council wants to go, but most importantly, where does the community want to go? And what are they looking at in regards to policing? We have changed a couple of the strategic directives along the way to make them more focused on accomplishing the tasks at hand. Those are the things that we talked about. The two big ones for me are the priority response and the deployment response models. That really, and I've talked about this before, that really will inform us, do we have the right amount of officers? Are we going to the right amount of calls? Do we have the calls separated out into call type categories? We have a call type that's called Assist Citizen that was highlighted in the P&T report sometime back. And this Assist Citizen call is kind of like the Dropbox for just about everything. It prevents us from doing a lot of good evaluative work, not having that broken out. So one of the things that we'll see from the priority response review is that Assist Citizen should be defined this way. A lot of the things that are being placed in there should be put into another category so we can effectively respond, whether it be bylaw related, whether it be a neighbor trouble, over a fence line that turns into a criminal offense because there's not enough intervention at the early stages. So there's a number of moving parts to this, and I think the request by Commissioner McDougall is a very good one, and we can have that conversation. When is that appropriate to bring forward? And we're happy to do that just to give the board an idea of where we're headed and how we can make informed decisions going forward.
Great, thank you. Very, very helpful. So related to the first part of the question and what phase we're in, and you answered that and obviously you've come into the 10-year strategic plan as being chief now. Is it almost 2 years or is it more than that?
It's just a little over 2 years, Chair.
Yeah, a little over 2 years. Would you say, so looking at your completion percentage for the items presented today, and I know it's a little hard, as you said, I guess, as priorities shift and et cetera, but would you say that you are comfortable with the completion of the progress for some of these items? Because we didn't, I think it was strategic at the plan at the time, there wasn't specific timelines tied to each item to say by this date, we're gonna have it complete. So I know you don't have a date you're supposed to have these things done by, but do you feel that the progress that has happened is where you want it to be, or could it have been better? So just trying to get an idea how you look at the progress that's been happening.
So thanks, Chair, and through you to the commission. Really good question. I actually reflect on this quite often and have lots of discussion with the team here in regards to what does success look like, not only from a timing perspective, but a results perspective. And you know, are we meeting the need and getting to where we need to get to? One of the things that I will say is we did accomplish a number of the strategic plan deliverables over the past couple of years, and our last update included some of those, and they were moved off, and we've refocused now into the ones that were presented to you today. So you know, we do have to regularly, because of the length of the 10-year process, it is quite a long time. So you know, I would be more comfortable with 3-year deliverables. So that's kind of where my mind is going with the team. And I think that, you know, if I was looking at it, I wasn't here to develop the 10-year plan, but certainly we're moving forward with it. But I think what you'll see is when we get an opportunity to do our refresh, which I would expect is going to be sometime in early 2022, depending on the results of the various things that are coming back. My goal is to give the board, or in consultation with the board, create a 3-year plan. So we know kind of, and it doesn't have to be 3 years, but it has, you know, it just has to be 3 or 5 or whatever we all feel comfortable with. So your question was, do I feel comfortable with the progress? Very much so. Over the past 2 years, I think the team here has done tremendous work on accomplishing some of the goals that were set in 2015. And so we continue to do that work. Would I like to deliver a little quicker in some areas? Absolutely. But we've had a number of things that have challenged us over the last little while, not the least of which is the pandemic, which did delay in some areas some of our ability to respond and complete. So my commitment to the board is that we'll continue to do that. You will likely get an ask next year, you know, probably in the spring, to convene the board or portions of the board as you see fit with the team here to have discussions on what does our strategic plan look like going forward. And it will be a discussion. Hopefully at that time, we'll have had some opportunity to get input from the community or involve them in part of the process. And that's also a good thing. And then we can move forward with new, you know, realistic and attainable goals. And like I said earlier, some of the goals that were set in 2015 just didn't really have a lot of relevance in 2019. And that'll be the case if you, in my view, if you extend it out over too many years, you tend to lose a little bit of the focus. So we're trying to work towards that. And in my mind, we have accomplished a lot over the past 2 years, especially with the challenges that the team here has faced, and we've all faced them, the board and council and everyone else. So we'll continue to do that going forward, and hopefully get together in the early part of 2022 to see where we go as a group with input from all.
Great, thank you. So I don't see anybody in the chat, so I'm assuming that there's no further comments from members for HRP. All right, so we'll move on to the RCMP. Just getting my agenda back up here. Strategic plan update, and I'll pass it on to. Oh, look at the pen! I love the pen. All right.
Thanks, Chair. A little distant, I think, in that view, but hopefully you can still hear me.
Yep, hear you fine.
Okay. Well, thank you. And again, referring to a document that was provided to the board here. And on the first page, just my sort of opening comments would be, as the board would be aware, the annual performance plan in this division across all districts was suspended for 2020-2021, so ending March 31st of 2021, meaning that the districts would not be receiving the regular amount of input and influence from the division by way of national headquarters. So this performance plan update, or operational key deliverable plan, the update from April to June, which is in front of you, is really, I would say, gave the district, Halifax District, the opportunity to really tailor this to more of the needs for the district, servicing the communities in HRM that we're responsible for, as well as the members. And so that will change fairly soon, by the way, in terms of the APP will be stood back up here in the division within the next couple of months. And there'll be a lot more of a flavor coming from Ottawa down to the division in areas like Indigenous reconciliation and others, which you may not see as well articulated in this particular plan. So again, this allowed the district under Chief Superintendent Gray, along with her officer corps, and you can see the champions in each of the initiative areas. First, starting with communities under the community survey on page 1. And Chief Kinsella actually spoke about this in his presentation. And the board would know that the community survey is ongoing and continuous and is being developed for the board in consultation and collaboration with HRP. Inspector Pepper, who's here with me today, is the champion for that. Under employee wellness, Inspector Landry, under the 4 initiatives: educating, implementing quarterly fitness and lifestyle activities, recognizing employees who contribute to wellness and meal plans, very employee-centric, and look to build a resilient workforce. And these are activities that Inspector Landry is taking under employee wellness. This all under the community's key deliverable. Employee recognition, also Inspector Landry, Jeremy Landry, working with our divisional awards and recognition to come up with a strategy to recognize employees for their both their service in terms of service in the force, but also for ongoing performance recognition that we as a division have been doing a much better job of, I would say, over the last year, particularly sensitive to the events of 2020, and have really begun to work hard through the districts, including Halifax District, and the work that Jeremy's doing to support the members and recognizing them through these different initiatives. So we have the creation of a awards and recognition committee in the district, creation of a recognition coin, and ceremonies, and that goes for informal ceremonies. So a decentralization, if you will, of these award ceremonies, because historically we've been very focused on tradition and the commanding officer being the overseer. A lot more work is being done in the districts, including Halifax District, to see Chief Superintendent Gray present these awards in a more timely manner over the last year to the members as they hit those service milestones and are recognized for their superior performance closer to those timelines, and not waiting the year or 2 or more to be recognized for those milestones as they go through their service. So that, I think, is excellent work, and we're seeing and hearing about the results of that. On the next page, under service excellence then, which is in the bottom part, this is under service excellence, as I say, succession planning and professional development, championed by Inspector Turner, who is the Ops Officer East now, under strategic staffing, working with my office, CID, and Halifax operations to develop accountable staffing processes that meet our operational requirements. Inspector Turner arrived to the division, as you know, early this year, late last, with a wonderful background in IHID in the Lower Mainland of BC, and is certainly well positioned, along with Inspector Nibbs, to advance this particular initiative. Job shadowing for the members in the district, led by Sergeant Allen. Looking forward to hearing more about that. And enhanced communications with Halifax districts and current staffing and future anticipated opportunities. So that is a management function, which would see the management team led by Chief Superintendent Gray with Inspector Turner leading that part of the discussion about really looking at the current and future staffing needs of the district in a strategic way and not being caught off guard. And so when we have those advanced staffing actions that are supported by myself and staffing, so we can get moving on those vacancies. Over to the next page, please. Still under the same initiative, and also Inspector Turner. This is on the innovation and delivering mandatory training. A needs assessment being conducted to identify and forecast training needs and developmental requirements. And then led by sort of a sub-lead. You'll see that typically they're the sergeants and staff sergeants reporting up to the inspector champions in this regard to lead those particular initiatives. So the needs assessment under Sergeant Taplin. Getting quite down into the weeds, but a need that's been identified is the development of a district subject matter expert pool to support networking developmental support within the district. And I commend them for that because we have very few subject matter experts in the division, and they are necessary for ongoing support of court and criminal prosecutions. And good to see that the district is taking that priority seriously and upon themselves. And then the third point, development, training high priority areas using local subject matter experts under the tutelage of Sergeant Berger, I should say, and he works out of CID. Next, under Inspector Pepper, excellent policing services. So this is falling under her area. And of course, Erin reports to Chief Superintendent Gray. We'll call it more on the administrative side of the house. And I've seen some of the ongoing engagement that Erin and Janice have had with their counterparts at HRP, reviewing and prioritizing the policing agreements. So there's a modernization effort there underway, and happy to see. And Chief Kinsella recently responded to a request from ours, and we look forward to having some fairly near-term discussions with our counterparts within HRP, looking at both the CID and Versadex MOUs. So that's what that pertains to. Communications under Inspector Nibbs, who's at CID, of course, enhancing our communication strategy and practices, leveraging partnerships, and developing internal and external communications strategy. And I understand from Erin that this is underway currently, and that there was a request for, and there have been some videos prepared on, for instance, on traffic services, highlighting some of our technology as an example for HR and council. On to the next page, please. Lastly, but under the same initiative, developing processes and partnerships for video communications through the RCMP and HRM social media accounts, internal videos bi-weekly and external traffic videos. Spoke about that on the previous page. And then lastly, also under Inspector Pepper, but working with Jamie Smith on the technology area. And this is ongoing for sure. This is with HRM and HRP, for instance, on e-disclosure and QA training for sergeants. So that's a very quick overview of some of the updates just from April to till June, or the end of June. And as I say, very Halifax district centric, as it ought to be. And I was joking with Erin, without some of the pressure from headquarters and the division over the last year, so they can really roll up their sleeves and focus on some of the more localized requirements, especially with Department of Justice and also with HRP across a number of these initiatives. Chair, that's it. Of course, any questions or comments, please.
Thank you, and appreciate that as well. From commissioners, any comments or questions? Commissioner McDougall.
I seem to have a few questions today. I was just curious to know what the meal plans for employees of Halifax District refers to under health and wellness.
I had the same question, and I wondered, are we opening up a cafeteria for the members that I wasn't aware of? And
And that's why you're in the kitchen?
Yeah, maybe here for all I know. No, it's actually on the fitness front. So it's we have a fitness coordinator, as you may know, here in headquarters, who works with all RCMP members who want to develop both a meal plans and fitness plans to help support a healthier lifestyle. So that's what that is, supporting members' wellness through helping them with their meal planning.
Great. Good. A good plan for many of us, I'm sure. My other question refers to excellence in policing services. This is Aaron Pepper's area, to review and prioritize the integrated policing agreements. And it refers to 2 integrated policing agreements. Can you just, again, be a little bit more specific? What 2 are they? Are they the integrated plan with HRP or something?
With HRP specifically, the CID MOU and Versadex MOU, and there's been a fair bit of dialogue and discussion with HRP, especially on the Versadex front over the last, I would say, several months. So I would say that's well underway. Subject to the chief's comments on that, that's the update that I've received, and there's been a series of meetings between especially the technical folks on both sides, our IMAT and within HRP and HRM. And the CID MOU, that's, we'll call it an update to what is an older MOU that needs some revisiting, because it's been many years since the CID MOU has, at least I'm been told, that it's actually been discussed and modernized. And those are really the 2 areas that we're talking about here in this this initiative area.
Thank you. No more questions from me.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else? All right, seeing none. Mine's related to the succession planning, professional development, and I know I've spoken to many different folks within the RCMP around this. In being a national force, there's a lot of national, I guess, operational impacts related. How do you, and I'm using you as the royal you, how do you deal with folks who might want to come back home, or who are individuals who apply to be officers here and then get deployed somewhere else, but again want to come back home? Because I know it's an ever revolving door of needs all over the country. So how do you deal with folks who want to be here and planned on starting their career and finishing their career in Nova Scotia, and for us, I guess, in particular, HRM?
Thanks, Chair. And it's as you alluded to, it can be quite involved or complex, and in terms of members may come from anywhere in the province, want to be deployed here early in their service. Most do not get that opportunity because nationally, this division, H division, is highly sought after. Many members, both from here and not from here, want to at least spend a portion of their career here. We have far more requests to be transferred in than we have positions for sure in the division. But for those specifically who say come from the HRM or close to, we'll almost always find a way back. Many will use, we'll call it a shortcutted version, which is working in isolated posts, for instance, in the north as a way to be redeployed to Nova Scotia. The good news for Halifax District is within the province. So even when our members get back to Nova Scotia, it's not always into the HRM, which is by far the most favorable area for members to want to come back to. There is a constant demand, both from within the province and out, for members to come to HRM. I mean, because of the amenities, because this is where many of our members were born and raised, but there is fierce competition for those positions. And we do the best we can to accommodate. We also find, I must say, that when members get here, many do not want to leave by promotion or otherwise. They're quite content to stay and work here for, if not a career, at least half a career. And so while that's good from a continuity standpoint, it also is a form of blockage to other members who would want to see an opportunity in the district. So it's a real balancing act. And so you see quite a bit of turnover. It's very difficult, though, for members, say, for instance, to take a promotion outside the division and then to come back unless it's with another promotion. Laterals are almost always dealt with inside the division. So it changes year to year, or at least it fluctuates slightly on the staffing side, but those are some of the sort of general observations, Chair, that I would share with you, most of which I think you're already familiar. And really none of that has changed even after the year that we had last year.
And you alluded to it a little bit, but again, what do you, other than the lifestyle, what do you think really compels folks wanting, because you're right, I hear all the time that there's so many officers who want to come to Atlantic Canada and Nova Scotia or even H Division. So how, is it, would you also say it's the environment within the workforce? Is it the experiences, because there's so many different communities? You got the rural, the urban, you have the African Nova Scotian communities, you have Indigenous communities. So I know this is probably a bigger conversation maybe we could have offline, but in just the quick notes version, what are the RCMP reasons you think that folks want to be part of H Division and come to Nova Scotia?
Well, I think it's a lot of what you just said. You have both the diversity, the amenities here in HRM in particular. You have the universities, you have education systems for members' children, but you also have, well, I guess until fairly recently, a much lower cost of living too for what is a, we'll call a major center, at least certainly from the Atlantic perspective, that's attractive to members. So say, for instance, compared to Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, Calgary, and this is what members do, this comes out on top, right, when they do those comparisons. So there's that piece. And I think members too are, to your point, looking for an area that they can work that will allow for them to have a taste of all of those dimensions of policing. Rural policing, so contract, provincial policing, in other words, city policing, if they get an opportunity to work in the HRM. And then they also have the specialty units, whether it's federal policing or CID or major crime. So you get, in a relatively, or what we call a medium-sized division, an opportunity to work, and even with an HRM, across all those policing opportunities. So very, very attractive. Very few other centers provide that sort of menu of opportunities for our members.
Okay, great. That's very helpful. No further comments for me on the plan. Good information. Yeah, I have nothing else to thank you, and there were no comments from members. So yeah, that's it. Thank you. We'll move on to our next item. Oops, I click to Zoom by mistake.
We will just need 1 minute to get the chair back on.
All right, I'm back. Sorry. I clicked Zoom by mistake when I tried to open up the agenda, and I went to a Zoom universe that I didn't know existed. But I'm back. Sorry for that.
Did you have a good trip?
Yeah, I don't know what just happened, but I went somewhere. But I'm back. So sorry for that. Again, thank you, Chief Leather, and for that report. Sorry, I got to come back to this meeting. mentally come back. All right, so moving on to our next item, which is 10.1.6, alternative approaches to public intoxication, feasibility of sobering centers and managed alcohol programs. So this item here was related to the item that was presented to council, just our last council meeting that was approved. And I believe if we want, we could have a discussion. There's no presentation, my understanding, on this item. This was more for members who are not councilors to have an opportunity to discuss this item. Now, one member commissioner that is here today, Vice Chair McDougall or Commissioner McDougall, you wouldn't have been at the council meeting. 2-3 of us here have seen this, so I don't know if you'd like. We have Dr. Siciliano here who can answer questions. I'm not sure if you have any questions. Thought it'd be good for the commissioners to have some discussion on this item, but we are missing 2 today. And so if there's anything councilors they'd like to expand on, but really giving you an opportunity as a commissioner to give some feedback or questions and have a discussion if needed. So Commissioner McDougall, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I really don't have a question, but since the presentation first came to us as a Board of Police Commissioners from Harry Critchley, I believe, I was just interested that when it appeared at council that there was going to be a staff review, I was interested, and I'm aware of a managed alcohol house in the city, and I just thought it was a really good advancement for both of these questions about sobering centers and managed alcohol. And so my understanding is that there's going to be a more detailed report, or was there an absolute commitment to doing something about both of these? That would be my only question.
Thanks, and I'll defer to Dr. Siciliano to give you a chance to come on the mic and answer a question. I could answer it, but I think it'd be great to hear from you.
Happy to answer it. Thank you for the question, Commissioner, and through you, Chair, back to the Commission. There were 2 recommendations that came out of the staff report. The one that you're referring to is around the sobering center. And the intent is now that we have had direction from council with the approval of the recommendation to move forward to explore the options for a sobering center, to come back with council for essentially a business case for what a sobering center would look like, including partnerships and costs associated with.
Anything further, Commissioner McDougall? No. Commissioner Blackburn, Kent, I know you had an opportunity to vote on this on council. Anything further from either of you? None. Okay, great. The only thing, and this is really for Chief, I guess both chiefs, if there's a comment. So because we didn't have an opportunity to have the chiefs at the meeting, I'm just wondering with the center that we have, I believe it's the managed alcohol center that we have. What is the relationship, or has there been a relationship with the police and that center? And just curious from a policing standpoint, if that has happened and what has the experience been with officers.
So I'll comment, Chair, if that's okay, first. So what I would say is, I believe there's a relationship. I can't comment specifically, with any detail on it. But what I can tell you is that in every instance, particularly where there's an interaction between an HRP officer and a member of the public who could be inebriated or intoxicated beyond the ability to help themselves or look after themselves for one reason or another, every opportunity is exhausted to find an alternative to placing them in the prisoner care facility. So whether that be medical, shelter, family, friend, we take every opportunity to house them and give them the opportunity to get assistance somewhere other than the prisoner care facility. Certainly, if that is, the location where the individual has to go, there are checks and balances to make sure before they are placed in the facility that we inquire, check them, make sure that they're okay, all of those kind of things. And we recently, it's almost been just over a year now, have 24-hour, 7-day-a-week supervision within our prisoner care facility to assist with that assessment before anyone is lodged. So the short answer is we will take them to the sobering center or another place that might provide care. And we make every effort to exhaust those alternatives before housing them in the prisoner care facility.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I see RCMP popped up. Any comments?
Well, Chair, I would echo many of the chief's comments there, and I would say add to that some of our geographical challenges too. When you're talking about sheet harbors and places such as that, we will do everything in our power to find alternative solutions to seeing a intoxicated person lodged in a cell or otherwise because of the travel times, and surely there's better alternatives in the community that we look to. And so frankly, we look forward to working with HRM and HRP on this particular initiative. And as you would know as well, many of our accused and those that are detained end up in HRP cells. So we're governed and are well aware of the requirements in terms of policy and are attentive to that, given that we're bringing many of our folks to Goderton.
Thank you. And the only other comment I'll make, what really was helpful in this report was also to be able to look at the data related to what we're talking about, because that gave us a visual, even though sometimes data is hard to understand, but being able to look at that data and get an understanding of the impacts and potentially what a program like this could do to support individuals and police if needed was useful as well. So I know there's probably a lot of work done in the background to get that data available to be put in here. So I do appreciate that in our original report to be able to really think about the impacts of it. So I guess that's a thank you to everyone for coordinating that piece. So that's really it. We don't have our other members, and I thought, and as Councilman McDougall or Commissioner McDougall mentioned, it did come here first and realized that as we move forward, it had to be something requested by council. So it only made sense that it circled back to the first body who saw it. So if there's nothing further from members, no one's in the chat, no one has their hand up, we will move on. Again, thank you, Dr. Siciliano, for your work, and that's it. So we're going to go to our next item, which is 10.2.1, and that's the committee to define the funding of the police. And really quickly, an update on that. Actually, me and Dr. Siciliano had a very, very brief meeting. Might have been Friday or Thursday, just to get a update and understanding on ways forward. And then, so we should be getting the final report. Their goal is to get it to us in August or even early September. Because September is when a lot of folks who are involved to work either in schools or our students are back to that world. So they, even though it's not our original timeline, they are sure and committed to getting that delivered before September, just because at that point, things will really start to slow down because a lot of their folks will start to get back into that world. But I don't want to be misquoted on the number, but I think the final count of surveys was 2,400, which is probably one of our biggest responses we've seen. And again, don't quote me exactly, but I know it was high, very high, which is great. And they're at the point now where they're formulating the final report and formulating the framework and the definition. So we should see that very, very shortly in our September meeting. We should be able to have it released to the public and have a discussion on that. And then depending on what comes out of it, either with recommendations or a framework, not sure yet. We won't know until we see it. Then we as the commission will decide how to move forward with those items. So yeah, there's nothing really much further to discuss on that other than the timeline has changed a little bit. We were hoping that we'd have it now, but with the extensive work that's going to be needed to compile all the data and information from the survey results, they weren't expecting that much, but are happy to have that much. It's going to take a little bit longer to do the work and provide the feedback. So yeah, that's it from me, and open for questions or comments, and I'll accept Commissioner McDougall.
Thank you. The first question I have is when the report is ready, it will come to us before it will be released to the public, right?
Right, that's what they said.
My second question is, have we made any progress in making sure that the Board of Police Commissioners owns this information, the research, so that it can be available to other groups for research purposes, and so that it's not held on a shelf and not available to be consulted or analyzed or whatever those words are from any academic players who are interested. So I don't know what needs to happen to make sure that takes place, but I just wanted to raise it to make sure we're still thinking about that.
Yeah, that's actually a great one. So that was a discussion that was had not too long ago, and it might be worthwhile to get something in writing. I'm not sure who, and maybe that's something that we need to work with legal on in our clerk's office. So the group or subcommittee understands that data will be HRMs because it's a committee of the Board of Police Commissioners, which is committee of council. So at the end of the day, it's understood that the data is HRMs, and there is ways to access that data formally, like folks access other data. So there isn't an understanding from the group that it's their data. They know it's ours, but they want to make sure there's access to it, because some of the academics on the committee want to be able to access that data for later research. So I think it's a good point to formulate that, and also for the committee to know, and maybe even the public to know, maybe this could be in the final report. If you want to access this data, this is how to do it. So maybe that's something we tag on to the final report of how it's accessed or not. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure how to do that, but I think you're right. We need to be pretty straightforward on how folks can access the information when it's complete. And Ian, you might have a comment being part of the Edmonton process. Maybe you have some knowledge on how to do that.
I was going to say that that is a takeaway for us as well. The clerk's office also does the information management for the corporation and records management as well. So that's something that we can provide some assistance on how we can facilitate and make that accessible.
Okay, great.
And protect the information as well.
Exactly, and that was the other piece is making sure that the folks who have provided their information is protected, because that was one of the pieces for the committee, is making sure that folks who are talking about policing want to feel that their information is not given to anybody outside of the subcommittee. So good point, Ian. Thank you. And Commissioner, thank you. Commissioner Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to add to that, I'm just wondering if if there is video of the online engagement afternoon, and if folks had an opportunity to pop into that Saturday session. I probably spent about an hour and a half, 2 hours there, and it was an incredible discussion. It was very well managed, and the clerk's office, you guys did an incredible job working with the team on that. So just wondering if the video of that discussion is going to be made available, if not publicly, and I can understand why some folks would be reluctant to not go public with their conversation, but at least the members of the Board of Police Commissioners should have an opportunity to just have a listen to some of the powerful conversations. Thank you.
Thank you. So I believe that it's currently on the HRM YouTube page. I think it was just posted in, yeah. So if maybe I'll actually, I can just send a follow-up email. But yeah, so it is public. It is accessible as long as you have the link, or you go on to the HRM YouTube page. You'll see it there, and it's probably actually great to send an email to the commissioners, maybe even council, just so they can have the video, even if they don't watch it. It's fine.
Yeah,
I think
it'd
be good.
It's incredibly well done. Yeah, thank you.
No, thank you. Good point. So I'll make a note to send that. All right. So if there's no further comments on that, I'm going to make sure I don't click on Zoom again. If there's no further comments on that, we'll move on to our next item, which is the commissioner updates, which we have none, and 210.4, House Regional Police and Royal Canadian Mounted Police Chiefs updates. So I'll pass it on to Chief Kinsella and then Superintendent Levitt.
Thanks, Chair, and through you to the Commission. Appreciate the opportunity. I'm just going to talk a little bit about COVID as we enter phase 4. HRP continues to work with citizens through education, engagement, and enforcement, and staying abreast of all the changes in the COVID restrictions. We're certainly headed in the right direction. So we continue to engage with the public on that. And overall, the call volume related to COVID, which I don't think will be surprised to anyone, is on the way down. So that's good news, and hopefully we're headed through the continued good case counts and moving forward. It certainly seems that way. Our first virtual recognition for employees event took place late last month. I'd like to thank members of the board who were able to attend or watch the tape version after. It was a time for us to celebrate the accomplishment of Halifax Regional Police members and reflect on the good work that continues day in and day out, oftentimes without any recognition. So I was pleased to be able to participate in that, and it seemed to be very well received by our members. And last month, I had the pleasure of promoting 6 of our officers to their new ranks. The ranks ranged from sergeant to superintendent, and I just want to say congratulations to all the members that were promoted. July is road safety theme is construction zone safety. And in conjunction with that, we have continued with both traditional and social media education on the theme, as well as our continued efforts to combat speeding and distracted driving. Overall, last month, HRP officers issued 639 summary offense tickets under a total of 58 sections of the Motor Vehicle Act, including 99 for speeding and 109 for distracted driving and 4 for stunting. Of note, stunting charges have gone down a little bit. I think that's a good thing. So hopefully the message is getting out there. We still continue to have a lot of speeding offenses, but we'll continue to stay with the public through the various campaigns to try to curb some of that behavior. I'd also like to highlight some incidents that took place related to impaired driving. We had a total of 22 drivers charged with impaired related offenses during the month of June. We had 62 calls in total for service that reported suspected impaired driving, and a total of 41 investigations into that particular offense that were commenced. And the investigations resulted from a combination of reports from the public, which we very much appreciate, and officer-initiated traffic stops or observations otherwise. And as always, we encourage citizens to call 911 if they ever see a dangerous or suspected impaired driver out on the roads within HRM. And finally, in June, all members of the HRP traffic unit completed their motorcycle training and recertification. So they're good to go for another year. And I also want to talk about 2 significant arrests that occurred and our members made last week. It was in relation to a rash of break and enters, theft of vehicle and theft from vehicle. And it led to the arrest of 2 men, 157 charges related to 23 separate events. So excellent work done there by our integrated CID, our patrol, and other support units. We very much appreciate the dedication to members. And it's just one example of a lot of great work that's gone on over the past month. And the Halifax Regional Police and the RCMP are working on a partnership with Halifax Public Libraries to facilitate access to historical street check data. We've been talking about this for some time, and I've been dealing with OSA for some time at the libraries, and it's coming to fruition now. And the library will act as a resource and provide another avenue for people to make application for their street check data in a neutral environment. There's individuals there from the library to help them, guide them. And we plan to have work completed on this in the coming weeks. And again, it's a combined effort between ourselves, the RCMP, and the libraries. And a little more detail on it is library employees will be provided a presentation with information which will help them answer citizen questions and provide some guidance to members of the public who choose to use public computers at their local library to submit and retrieve their information as it relates to street check data. And integrated posters are being created about the program, and they will be provided to libraries for distribution and posting. And to date, I can tell you that we have had 12 community members have applied for their information on the street check data that may be there. And we continue to encourage members of the public to come forward, put in the Freedom of Information requests this initiative with the libraries in conjunction with the RCMP is certainly another way that members can have access, and we'll continue to promote that and publicize that. So everyone who wants to see if there's something related to them in our data certainly has the opportunity to seek that out. And we continue to highlight various occasions via social media platforms. And in July, for example, we honored one of our line of duty deaths, Constable Charles Fulton. He died while on duty on July 14th, 1924. He was only 28 years old. So we will continue to honor those past sacrifices by our heroes in life. We continue to share summer safety messaging throughout July, as well as our ongoing messaging on preventing crimes of opportunity. You know, keeping your doors locked if you're parking your vehicle, keeping valuables out of sight and hidden in the trunk, or take them in the house, whatever the case may be. We have to take every opportunity we can to limit crimes of opportunity for those that would perpetrate that out in our community. And certainly, not last but not least, for this month, I was very pleased to join members of our graduating class of the HRP Youth Program. And I want to give a special shout out to the group for overcoming many challenges posed by the pandemic. They were creative and migrated a lot of their work to virtual platforms while still demonstrating excellent teamwork and community spirit. They really are the future leaders of tomorrow here in Halifax. And I also want to give a shout out to the team, Tanya Reno and a number of other, Tanya Lambert and a number of other of our members who contributed to that program and making it happen for our youth. And that's my update, subject to any questions.
Great, thank you, Chief. Commissioner McDougall.
Thank you. Great update about the library and the collaboration to make application for street check data. I was wondering, when you talked about posters, if there were going to be different languages for the posters, and secondly, could you make sure that 211 is aware of this as well? Because, you know, people are often calling, looking for help for something or asking a question, and it's just a great resource that's available and free and online and through telephone and whatever. So just to add that to your list of ways for people to find out about the library project.
Yeah, thank you for that, Vice Chair. We'll certainly look at multiple language options. I know we do have that, as does the RCMP with our complaints process. So we'll certainly make sure that that is available, and we'll also pass along the information to any group that's willing to help us get the message out.
Good, Commissioner McDougall. Good. Okay, thank you. Anything further from members? Seeing none, I do too appreciate work with the library to get that information. I think the library is a neutral place in all of our communities, and if working with them is definitely positive. So I have nothing to say, but good job on that. Okay, well, if there's nothing further for the HRP, we'll move on to the RCMP Chief's update.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners. Chair, I'm going to provide an update. Of course, I'm standing in for Chief Superintendent Gray on this particular meeting, and she enjoys her well-deserved leave this summer. Two updates, one surrounding our efforts in North Preston, most recently with the town hall that was well attended last week, Tuesday, July 13th. A 2-hour meeting with a number of community members, but also we had the local MP, Mr. Sampson, present, councillors also there for what was a very important and a meaningful discussion with the community. A community that has been the subject of 4 shootings and 1 murder very recently, as has been well reported in the media, and we're all well aware. It's put community at risk, and we're doing what we can to investigate these crimes, but also to do our very best to suppress any additional gang activity, because that's exactly what this is. This is not as we all know, a random set of crimes. This is a retributive series of groups that are targeting one another. This is targeted crime to which, sadly, historically, here and otherwise, members of the community will become victims of these random and senseless shootings. In this instance, and most recently, shootings into residences with no regard for who is or who is not home at the time. We've had our challenges in terms of cooperation, and we're working hard on that. We recognize that we need the trust of the community in order to do our job effectively, and this is why we will continue to have this level of engagement over the next several months as we continue to work through this challenging crime trend that has taken over in many ways that particular part of the HRM. But I am, again, proud of the work that Chief Superintendent Gray, Inspector Turner did last week in their engagement with the community. Excellent feedback from community members and the councillors who were present in terms of our message and the feedback that we received. We will now be moving into what we're referred to as a suppression effort. This will be a visible effort on our part to have more members from surrounding detachment areas to try to deter these senseless acts. The commission will know that we had a managerial review done, really coincidental to what has occurred here, which the results have just been received. Many members of the community interviewed. Their thoughts and recommendations form a key part of this review, and we will be implementing some of the recommendations that were made there. One of the big recommendations and requests, which we hear loud and clear, is a need for 24-hour policing, more visibility in the community. And we are working hard to increase our profile in the community and our availability to the community members for a detachment which has been for many, many years not manned 24/7. We're going to be undertaking a larger public safety initiative, which, as I already noted, will include more community meetings. But we're going to be doing literally door knocks and engaging with the community members at a more grassroots level, and our members have already started those engagements. More community engagement, more involvement with the members of the community will lead to increased trust and understanding. So we are, I just received a copy of the public safety strategy, which is going to have a number of elements to it. It will have a proactive media component. We recognize the importance of front-end community engagement, as I already noted, as well as messaging for the public. This will be intelligence-led. There will be more of a visibility in the community in terms of our suppression activities to try to suppress any additional acts of violence. And there will be resource reallocations, at least temporarily, across the HRM, but in particular in the closer Halifax area, from RCMP members to the area until we're satisfied that we have this matter under control. Great work of our integrated CID over the last several months on this particular file. A number of investigations are underway, as you can well appreciate. They continue to remain engaged as well. HRP and their members have assisted regularly to help us during times of need over the last few months. So I thank Chief Kinsella and his staff for their assistance under the circumstances. I'll move on to a very separate but important update for not just HRM, but the province, and that's on Alert Ready. As many will know, the province made an announcement last week, really the beginning stages of the public education aspect of alerting. Chief Kinsella, I, and other chiefs, as well as principals of government, have been in meetings for many, many months to develop solid strategy and policy for alerting. And this is not only, as I say, for HRM, but for the rest of the province. And I am proud of the work of the committee and what we've done. But the work remains incomplete. We move forward on that. And case in point, last week, July 14th, or I should say July 14th, there was a tabletop exercise that involved our members, HRP, emergency management, and some of our key policing partners. And I'm told that it went very, very well. And we're becoming much more comfortable and conversant with the use of alerting. And look forward to reporting on that in the coming months. That's really it, Chair, for my updates for the district. Subject to any comments or questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Comments or questions from commissioners? No, I thought I saw a hand go up earlier, but I think that might just be the last one. Oh yeah, okay. See hand, Commissioner Blackburn.
Hi there. Thank you for that. Yeah, just something that I was thinking of, and I appreciate the update. That was fantastic. I appreciate the information. Started thinking earlier about we're in the season now for boating, and I'm just wondering from an RCMP perspective, who should people be calling when they see unsafe boating practices, people drinking and boating, stunting on the water, that type of thing? There just seems to be real confusion about who's responsible for what on the lakes. And and maybe I'm offside with this question, but it just popped into my head, and I thought, well, I've got the best brains of RCMP in front of us. I would ask this question because it's one that's been just, you know, gnawing at me for quite a while. So I'm just wondering if they could weigh in on that. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. And so it's a good question because, as you can appreciate, we have the coastal waterways and the inland lakes. And so jurisdictionally, it does depend. It becomes, I would say, a little more complicated, specifically in the HRM and the basin and other areas where HRP does have a marine footprint. We have some MSOC vessels, but they really only become involved if it's a federal matter, you know, i.e. importation of drugs or the need for offshore boarding and those sorts of higher end protracted events. And then if it's inland in the lakes, well, of course, it's us. I mean, I would expect whether it's IES, the integrated communications that HRP oversees, or OCC, they're certainly capable of routing those calls to the appropriate authority, depending on the circumstances, as you say, whether it's a intoxicated boat operators or dangerous boat operation, because you have also the Coast Guard in the mix, depending on if they're interfering with the safe passage of other vessels or mucking about, obviously, with the buoys, and we do see that kind of behavior. So it really does depend on both the location and the nature of the, we'll say, misconduct as to where those calls are routed to. And there would be literally a set of process maps that our folks in the comm centers would have and be referring to, depending on the nature of the complaint, and then routed accordingly, because of course you have the whole search and rescue apparatus that's also in place should it become a person overboard or a suspected drowning, and a whole series of vessels that are launched pursuant to that, which of course has more to do with the Coast Guard and Navy and air support. So complex in many ways, but I would say well ironed out in terms of who's responsible for what. And certainly we could have, if it would be an interest to yourself, Commissioner, or others, a more sort of detailed or comprehensive presentation prepared on that, just because of the divergent responsibilities around that.
Sure, but so that said, you know, if a resident was to call 911 or the 490-5020 number, they would get the incident would be sent to the appropriate folks, no matter where, no matter what they called.
Yes, and while HRP may have the marine capabilities for the harbor and in that vicinity, and perhaps slightly beyond, we similarly have vessels deployed around the province, as you well know, that would be responsible for those sorts of on-water responses. And I am confident if such a call was to come in, those are the sorts of things that our call takers would be sorting through in terms of the geography and the jurisdictional issues, and then over to the appropriate authority to investigate and follow up depending on the nature of the report.
Appreciate that very much. Thank you. Thank you all for allowing me that question.
Thank you, Commissioner. And not seeing anything else or anyone else in the chat or with their hands up, we'll thank both chiefs for their updates. Nothing from me, and we'll move on. So moving on to 11 added items, we had none. No items for future consideration. In camera, I believe we just have our minutes. That's what I see. Just a quick clarification from clerk. We just have minutes for in camera, correct? All right, I'm going to assume that was a yes. All right. So
sorry, Mr. Chair, this is Ian. My apologies.
No
yes,
worries.
that is accurate. I have mic problems over here.
No worries. All right, great. So if members don't mind, if you'd like to move the in-camera minutes public, that'd be appreciated.
I'll move the in-camera minutes of June 21st, 2021.
Great.
Second.
Thank you. Seconded by Commissioner Kent. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Great. The minutes have been moved in public, so there's no need to go in camera. We don't have any other items. All the information and correspondence has been shared with commissioners. The date of the next meeting is on here as August 16th, but we will most likely, unless something comes up in the meantime, we'll take that meeting, not postpone it. We'll just leave our meeting for September. So the meeting for September is when? I don't have my calendar up. I should know, but I don't. September's meeting is the 20th, September 20th. It's my daughter's birthday. So she will definitely appreciate me spending the day with you all. So with that, again, thank you both chiefs, Inspector Pepper, who was there as well, and commissioners for the meeting. Enjoy your summer, and Marty and team, Mr. Golf as well, and our clerks. Thank you for your support, and that's it. So ask for a mover to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
All right, great. Thank you. Enjoy your summer and your day, and I'll see counselors tomorrow.
Thank you.